Blog
What's up,
Talk
what's up, what's
Radio.
up? What's up, good people? It's your man, Jay Free. I see Jay is free because I can see. Welcome to another episode Outside the Box. We are inside the garage, breaking it down, chopping it down, talking it down, getting into real life, real issues, talking about things that affect us, the world that's going on around us. If you want to be a guest on the show today, you can call in at 215-383-3721. Again, that's 215-383-3721 to be a guest on Outside the Box today. We are streaming live on BTR Blog Talk Radio. No intro music today. I've been gone for a few days. I also live a life, so I apologize for being gone. I have personal issues to deal with as well. But also I like to, I just make sure I'm thorough in what I do. Everything for me is spiritual. It's not personal. And so therefore, the spirit forced me to step back for a couple moments. I wanted to apologize for the listening, viewing audience, for those that do take time out to pay attention and listen. I want to apologize for going on the rants or being in my feelings, misrepresenting myself, making things a little bit more personal than they ought to be. I get, I'm human, so this stuff is real for me. I know how real and serious it is to me, and oftentimes I get caught in my emotions or my feelings and frustrations when I don't feel that people are listening or responding or, it's like, you're yelling at somebody, trying to tell them to go left before they hit a wall, and when they hit the wall, you kind of get frustrated when you try to help them. So I definitely apologize for any energy or anything that I may have done in the wrong going forward, because it's not about me. This is not about me trying to convert anybody, trying to make anybody believe me or follow me, but I have been unctioned and placed this call on my heart, and therefore I have a responsibility to put the information out. What you do with it once I release it is up to you. My responsibility is only to. On the last show, I did a little bit where we were talking about identity crisis, and we'll probably get into that some more because everything kind of boils down and falls into that notch. But we had started hitting on about the boule in my last episode, and I'm not going to do that today. So I just want to let anybody know that does pay attention to listen that I am on YouTube. Under the same name, Jay Free, I C, Jayfree, ICEE. And all of my blog talks I upload to YouTube, as well as I do live broadcasts, as well as other videos and shows on YouTube. So generally there's more information on YouTube than there is on BTR. So that show that I'm talking about where we got into the boule, we actually ended up, once BTR, I only have a 30-minute platform here. So once I finished on this BTR, I actually went over to YouTube Live and had about an hour and a half or so session where we got into some interesting points about the boule and breaking down the effects. So if you're interested in that, go to YouTube, Jayfree, and you can look that information up. As you can see, today's show, the topic we were talking about or going to get into is Hitler, the Jews, and the global conspiracy. Now, let me just say on the onset that you need to understand, as I've always said before, perspective is everything. How we view a situation determines our approach, our response, our reaction. Everything is based on our perspective. I mean, we literally live based off of what we believe and what we think and what we feel. We don't have to go into the breakdown. Look it up yourself. Again, there's other lessons where we talked about it. Understanding that perspective is everything. We also understand the issues of life. Most issues of life are self-inflicted. I don't know if there's any nicer way that I can say that. Usually, generally, when a person has a problem in their life, the problem is self-inflicted. However, as black people, we have a lot of issues that are going on in our community and in our lives that appear self-inflicted on the surface because, nobody put a gun to my head and made me smoke or made me, go commit a crime. That's true. However, the circumstance of the situations that surround me oftentimes can push me into a reaction or a response because, again, everything is based on perspective. Our perspective is based on that which the information that comes in. So if we're fed information, then that's all we can know. So I only know what I've been fed. I only know what I've been taught. You understand what I'm saying? And so this is where we are, and this is why I say everything is spiritual. So my attempt to try to get people to understand some things that are going on around us by paying attention and focusing on some details. Remember, our show is outside the box. So what we do is we challenge the norms of thinking, and we force you, or we try to get you to look at different approaches or look at different scenarios. We try to get you to look at, a plethora of things to invoke critical thinking, to make you not just think of a thing the way you're regularly taught about it or the way you regularly thought about it. We like to mix something in there, not, yellow and blue make green, but what if somebody told you could put red in there and make green? I'm just throwing it out there. Is it possible? Yeah and nay. Now, on the surface, we immediately say no because we've been taught, that it can't. However, what if it could? And I'm not saying it can. I'm just saying what if it could? You will never know until you're willing to go in and explore. So we have to always be open to new information. So this is where we are. So when we're talking about Hitler, the Jews, and global conspiracy, and you're saying, but how did this affect the black community? I'm pretty sure this is going to be more than the one episode, or we're going to end up having to go to YouTube and getting deep. This is a lot of information. Adolf Hitler is known for being the architect of World War II. This is what people know him as. Dictator, racist, hate the world, hate everybody. Started World War II for world domination. His attempts to conquer the world and make Germany, this is what we're told about. We also know that as a result of that, he was responsible for the Holocaust. And where we live, you know what I'm saying, we made to remember and think about the Holocaust on a regular occurrence. And so Hitler is known for these things. World War II, which is the last great war that has occurred, and the Holocaust. But I want us to, again, think outside the box, so we're going to ask some questions. Was he solely responsible? Was Hitler completely responsible for World War II? Was he just a racist, evil dictator? You know what I'm saying? As they have portrayed to us. But I asked the question, could he have just been a pawn in a more sinister and deviant plan, a more sinister conspiracy? Again, so now we're going to look at a couple interesting points. I have a copy here in front of me. This is Hitler's testament, and it's called A Historical Final Statement to the World. Now, this is Hitler's testament. This is an official document. It was recorded on April 29th, 1945. And before Hitler died, when he knew that the enemy forces were coming in and that he was going to eventually be overtaken, he called in for a secretary to come in so that he could give his last remarks and his last words, because out of fear of being captured and being made, being used as a tool or used as a trophy, he decided to take his own life and not give, those that captured him the honor of being able to say they captured him. So he wanted to give his last testament. Now, in his testament, this is Hitler's own words. Like I say, we outside the box, so we just challenging some thinking. I'm going to bring up some points. Hopefully you'll think on them. Now, in his last testament, a couple things that he pointed out. Now, what Hitler said was, it is not true that I or anyone else in Germany wanted the war in 1939. Those that are unaware, it was a German-Polish war, or German-Polish conflict, that turned into war. It turned into World War. But let me get these points first. He said it's not true that I or anyone else in Germany wanted the war in 1939. He said it was desired and instigated exclusively by those international statesmen who were either of Jewish origin or who worked for Jewish interests. He said, I have furthermore never wished that after the first disastrous world war, a second one should arise against England, much less against America. Centuries will pass away, but out of the ruins of our cities and monuments, the hatred will continually grow against the people that is ultimately responsible and whom we have to thank for all this. International Jewry and its helpers. He said, the leading circles in English politics wanted the war, partly on account of the hoped-for business opportunities and partly prompted by the propaganda organized by international Jewry. Now, people like blah, 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 blah. Again, interesting point to point out. Now, these are Hitler's. This is his last testament before he's captured. And he says that it is not true that I or anybody in Germany wanted war in 1939 when they started World War II. He said, we did not start the war. He said it was instigated by those who were either of Jewish origin or that they worked for Jewish interests. Understand what I said? He said, I never wished that after World War I that another war would rise against England, much less against America. You understand what I'm saying? So now, here we are. The picture is painted that Hitler was this overbearing, racist dictator that wanted to wipe out the entire planet for German domination. But he out his own mouth said, nah. I didn't start this war. In fact, he goes on to say, let me read here real quick. He goes on to say that I had given options concerning the conflict with Poland to try to bring peace to the situation. But he said because of the interest of Bolshevization, the Jews, that it was still provoked. So there was a conflict between Germany and Poland, and Hitler had no intent to try to start a world war. But because there were some other people that had some other interests, you understand what I'm saying? They wanted to. Now, y'all talking about what you mean? The Jews. You know what I'm saying? Why he say the Jews were responsible? Let me just read another little point here. He says regarding the Holocaust. He says, although he say I'm trying to read it in the correct way. So he didn't try to deny or whitewash what became known as the Holocaust, but instead he took responsibility, but he gave an explanation in attempts to justify. He insisted that international Jewry bore collective responsibility for inciting and provoking the Second World War. He said, now he had given a message. He talked about, and this is what he said, I'll be a prophet. He said, if international finance Jewry inside and outside Europe will once again succeed in plunging the nation of the world into a world war, he said, once again succeed in plunging the nation into world war. That means it was responsible for part one. We're going to keep going. He said, then the result would not be the Bolshevization of the earth. In other words, the result, he said, if they continue to try to push their agenda, then I will not allow them to allow the agenda to overtake us all on the earth. He said, therefore, the victory of Jewry I will not allow, but instead the annihilation of the Jewish race in Europe. Now, I got some interesting other points to bring up. Now, notice how he's continuing to refer to the Jewry. He notice he says, I didn't start the war. I never wanted the war. I never intended for it to be war. He said, but the Jews, international Jews, and those who have Jewish interests, it was for them a desire to push forward the war. He says, international Jewry is a grave danger for all humanity. Now, this is another point. In his testament, not just to the Germans of his own era, but to people of all nations, he says many years in the future, is the absence of any criticism or even specific mention of any enemy leader or nation, except international Jewry. Notice in his paper, in this confession, he made no mentions of the names of, those that he was up against at the time. Stalin, Roosevelt, Churchill. He didn't refer to the Soviet Union or the United States. He was referring, notice he made statements about those in the future. He was trying to preserve his name. That was the purpose of the document. When you read, if you look it up and read it and decide to do the research, the purpose of him giving this testament was because he had a fear of how his name would be tarnished and the reputation that would be passed down through history, so that he would receive the blame for the Holocaust as well as for World War II. And he gives the explanation. So what you talking about, Jay Free? What are you talking about? Why is this important? What difference does it make about the Jews and what Hitler's tied to it, and you know what I'm saying, and what's going on with that? So hold on, let me read this point right here. So concerning Hitler. Now this is a statement from Hitler. Now this is aside from his testament, the last testament recorded. This, however, was a statement. And this is what he said. He said, even in my death, I'll start World War III. And one of the soldiers asked him how. He said, because the white Jews know that the Negroes are the real children of Israel. And to keep America secret, the Jews will blackmail America. The Jews will extort America. Their plan for world domination won't work if the Negroes knew who they were. America will destroy the whole world in its attempt to conquer. That's why this was so important concerning our community to have some understanding about Hitler regarding the Jews. Now, I'm not taking Hitler's side because I also believe that Hitler was used as a pawn to be an antagonist for the Jewish cause. This is why when I said before, notice in school we're taught about the Holocaust, but we're told to forget about slavery. They want us to remember the Holocaust for empathy so that there's a relationship. And whenever you mention slavery, then the Holocaust is brought up and the Holocaust is mentioned. But that's a whole other. We're going to dig deep in that too, how those that claim themselves to be Holocaust survivors, a lot of them were not even there in the camps in certain situations. But I won't, like I said, all of this, the rabbit holes goes deep. So this is important. Now, the races that they claimed when he was in secret or away from those that had him under their wing, he made the statement that the black man are the original God. The black man in America are the Jews. Now, some interesting points. Notice in Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, he said that we are treated, or we are exiled, or we are treated as slaves in our own land. Malcolm X made statements similar to the same of how we were victims in our own land. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up, I'm trying to tie it all together to make it make sense because it goes so deep. So let's just look at this for a minute with the Jews. The Jews, or those that call themselves Jews according to what we're dealing with now, they've been hated throughout history. You understand what I'm saying? There's an English charter, and some of us have heard the name, the Magna Carta. And in the Magna Carta 1215, it specifically has instructions concerning the Jews and their usury, which is money. And their, in other words, the Jews have always had beef. The Jews have been expelled throughout history from many nations. The Jews in our previous history, the medieval times and times that they've blotted out and tried to white out, the Jews have continually been persecuted and ridiculed. And there's a reason being. This is why they instituted the lies that they've instituted within religion, because this is what Hitler was talking about. This is where this such affects our community, because ultimately what we get to is a global conspiracy put into play by an international jury. we use terms like Illuminati, Freemasons, secret societies, Templar Knights, the Order of Melchizedek, Rosicrucians. There's so many different terms, so many different secret societies, so many things that are attached that go unnoticed right in front of our face and right under our eyes that we don't pay attention to. And so now we begin to understand the conflict with Judaism and Jewry throughout the history of the world, secretly underneath our nose, and the plan for a world agenda. I just wanted to throw that there. I got a bunch of more information. I hope I made sense with what I'm saying. The reason I'm stopping here is because, like I say, the rabbit hole goes deep. I just wanted to say something that would spark the interest to have people at least begin to dig in and start the process of researching how crazy I am and what I'm saying in regards to the Jewish conspiracy and Hitler's statement about us being the true Hebrews and what that ties into, because I only have so much time on this show, so that's why I know I can't dig into it. But what we're going to end up getting into is why the Jews, why they created this global conspiracy, and why the statements that are being made by Hitler, others, are made in the way that they are being made. Because notice what Hitler said, the same as MLK, Malcolm, what they said was about us being a victim in our own land. And this is in spite of all that they tried to do to teach us about our roots. And so in our learning of our roots, just like the movie Roots, you understand what I'm saying? Now there's this thing where we've accepted the title African American, and now we claim African, and we're looking to get back to our African roots. However, again, just to make you think, who said you was from Africa? I ain't talking about, I know they said you were from Africa, but I'm talking about if you don't know who you are, where you come from, you going to believe the same people that told you all the other lies? Remember we talked about with the Boule and everything. When new information comes out, they're always going to have a counter or a conflicting message to make sure to keep the mind confused. Remember in the Willie Lynch letter, they talked about the brain. They talked in the Willie Lynch letter, or the making of a Negro slave, whatever you want to call it. I know it's not real, but I'm going to tell you what I read in there. Within the letter, it talked about that they had went extenuating thought to try to figure out if anything, could possibly foil this plan of psychological warfare that they were putting together. And the one thing that they came to discover is written in the paper. It ain't me making it up. The one thing they came to discover, they said that the brain has the ability to correct itself. They said the brain, when it comes into contact with any of its origin, it has the ability to begin to correct itself. In other words, it's just, the example is just like, someone who has amnesia, and that means they don't know nothing, they can't remember, but because it's still digested in their unconscious brain, even though they can't remember. Notice the doctor will tell you to constantly try to, take them to areas where y'all used to go. They'll tell you to show them pictures, to talk about memories, to bring old friends and family around, because what the hope or the process is that the more familiarity that you bring into the person with amnesia's life, the more familiarity you bring around them, the better chance they have of recovering their memory, because the brain has the ability to correct itself. So what they discovered was, because of this process, in other words, we can tell them a lie. We can tell them, this is God, or we can tell them that money is God, and we can tell them whatever we want. He said, but the moment they come into contact with any of the origins of their home, you see what I'm saying? Any of the origins of their brain, he said it'll begin the process of correcting itself. So what they devised, and it's written in the paper, what they said was, so we devised that we would come up with a multiplicity of a phenomena of illusions. In other words, we would give them so many different avenues and issues to look at and think about that will keep them confused. So even when they begin the process, so even if something sparks their brain to say, wait a minute, that don't look right, when they begin to try to uncover what they find that doesn't look right, we'll have something else there waiting for them to help confuse them and send them on another route. So in other words, we'll keep them forever bouncing around and guessing. So now here we are in what appears to be the conscious era, the awakening era, but yet we don't understand that they have a multiplicity of phenomena of illusions. So when we begin to wake up and read information, they have counter information and conflicting information to keep us continually going in circles and looking for answers. So now, in the 1970s, I can't remember what year, but remember, this is stuff you research it, please, people. The movie Roots was created before the movie Roots, the term African American wasn't used in America. After the movie Roots, we began to associate ourselves with being African, and we were told that we were African American because, remember, a lost people that have no remembrance of themselves, no grasp on their home, we're always longing and looking for acceptance. We're looking to find, we want to be a part of something. This is why we struggle as we do, because remember, it's identity crisis. And so within this identity crisis, as I say, they're aware of this. So once we begin to look answers, they hit us with the Africa. Now, all of this I am saying because as we're going to dig into this, what Hitler was talking about, the Hebrews of, we are the original Jews, what Hitler was talking about. What Hitler was talking about when Hitler said that, that the word America's their plan won't work if the Negroes knew who they were. And notice throughout the story, I got more information that we're going to get into. But notice what they continue to talk about too is that they continue to say America, America, America. Notice what it says: the Jews' plans to extort America. Why are you saying all of this, Jeffrey? What are you talking about? What I'm trying to point out is that we got to begin to research. Everything is spiritual. Spiritual means us being connected with the Creator. The Creator being everything that is life, that is nature. Everything that is created is the Creator, or everything has the essence. So we are to be connected back with our roots. This is what religion's intention was. Religion's intention was to be a doorway to introduce us to spirituality. However, they created it and made it to where instead of us focusing on the real invisible, we tried to make the invisible real in the physical. And so we try to manifest spiritual things in the physical, and this is where we be off whack and do. And their understanding and awareness of this. So this is why they created the false deity images, why they created the outward images of God, and they took the realities of religion, and this is why they have to make us be disconnected from our home. Because as we understand spiritual and we understand ancestral roots and blah, 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 but if we all think we're Africa and we America, I just messed up, y'all. Now you got to begin to dig in and research who were the indigenous to this land. Just because they told you that the Indian was a yellow or a red man, who really were the people of color that were here when they landed? We're going to get in deep. I only got a couple seconds left, good people. It's your man, Jay Friasi, Outside the Box. I'm hoping that we are becoming inquisitive, intuitive, and that we are beginning to dig in and research. There's a lot going on out here around us, and they looking to take blood from us and to wipe us out from who we are. Identity theft. Know who you are, people. It's your man, Jay Friasi. I love you. Bless us. 100.
And now, insurance-minded speeches from Geico.
Hardship. My grandmother would go through it every month to pay her insurance bill. First, she would handwrite a paper check, in cursive. Then, using her own tongue, she would wet a stamp for an envelope. Today, however, we need not weary our hands and tongues. Today, we can pay our Geico bill with the Geico app. Away with hardship, in with bill pay on the Geico app. Thank you.
You've reached the High Fashion Hotline.
Hi, I walked the dog, washed the car, and took the kids to practice. All that's left to do is get new summer clothes for my family.
Just go to Old Navy.
Old Navy?
Yep, they'll love Old Navy's summer styles. And right now, during Old Navy's Thank You event, get 30% off your entire purchase, 40% off when you use your Old Navy card.
40% off?
That's right. Don't have a card? Open one today in store and save like a supermom at Old Navy and OldNavy.com.
It pays to be mom. I'm going to Old Navy now.
High Fashion, Old Navy. Valid 5/10 to 5/14. 40% offer subject to credit approval. See stores for details and exclusions.